Hello, everybody. Welcome to another review of The Haves and the Have-Nots, the final season. So let's get into it. So Veronica and Hannah were brawling, and Veronica was getting some hits in, but um, Hannah took her down. Hannah punched her, got her down for the count, and Veronica just stopped trying. And Hannah's like, I've been waiting a long time to beat your ass. Because Hannah's lost all her patience. Because I remember back in the second season, I think it was, when Benny brought Veronica to Hannah's house, and Hannah walked in on them, and they got into it with Veronica, and she told Veronica, if I wasn't saved, there was a time I would have dragged you out in that yard and beat your ass. And Hannah didn't do it then, but fast forward to this season, Hannah has lost all of her patience, and I guess it's fitting for the last season because Hannah has been through so much, and at this point, she's going to be at the end of her rope. So Veronica has the nerve enough to say Hannah has lost her mind, and Hannah claps back. And you've lost your loan. I'm calling it in, and I'm going to foreclose on all that shit. Hannah said shit so many times this episode, I couldn't keep track. I think it was 5, but I'm not sure. So Veronica keeps lingering around, and then before leaving, and Hannah kept telling her, go, leave, get out. And then she says, before she leaves, she's like, all right, prepare for war. And like I said before, I think Benny will be one of the people who dies at the end of the series. At first, I thought Sandy would take him out, and that's still a possibility. But now I think Veronica might take him out because she knows how to hit Hannah the hardest. She knows how to hit Hannah the hardest, and taking out one of Hannah's children would be the way to really hurt Hannah. And so we'll see what that happens with that. So anyway, the police arrive as Veronica's leaving, and Jim and David are arriving, and Veronica doesn't want to say anything. And Hannah says, well, Veronica was going through Catherine's things. And David tells the police they can go, and Hannah's like, I'm the one you should be talking to. She was saying in reference to police that they should be talking to her, and she lets them know, she was trespassing. We got into it. That was that. And Jim wants to know what Veronica was looking for, but he gets no answers because nobody is really trying to talk. I mean, as far as Hannah and Veronica go, they were not trying to really engage with Jim that much because they don't like him. Oh, but Veronica did say something to Jim, so you're going to try to kill me, something like that. So let's get to Benny and Candace. So there really was not a whole lot going on with this part. So they were looking at the house, and Candace persuaded Benny to get the house, and Benny's just like really into the real estate agent. He's talking about she could be the future Mrs. Young, and somehow he likes her enough to smash, and I'm like, disrespectful. And so Candace arranges for a quick closing and a good deal and all that because it's a brand new house. It's the developer just put it up, so you can get it for a better price than a house that somebody's lived in. It is reselling. Excuse me. And so Candace wants to get out of the country, or at least get out of the state or whatever, and she tries to buy a ticket, but she can't get one. And it turns out she's on the no-fly list, so she contacts Landon, and Landon at first is trying to act like he's not aware of what's going on, and then she says, I'm going to go to the press. I'm going to go to the press. And then Landon's like, no, wait, I just want one comment from you. And then he goes like, one interview from you. This is going to work in your favor, blah, blah, blah. And Candace is not having it, and he says, "Well, we'll take you off the no-fly list if you do one interview," and she hangs up. And Landon calls somebody, and he inquires about how long Candace can be kept on the no-fly list, and it was like 4 days. So Candace is going to be stuck on there for 4 days, and I wouldn't be surprised if those 4 days were not up before the end of the series, because I think the rest of this series is all going to be the same day, knowing Tyler Perry's pacing. So let's see. Yeah, and Candace told Benny not to do this, but Benny was like trying to close the deal by saying, "Well, I'll close this real estate deal with you if you go out with me." Talking to the real estate agent, and she's like, "I don't mix business with pleasure," and Candace told him not to do that, but Benny's just an idiot. So Veronica goes to see Catherine, and she's she tells her she was looking for the file for the company that Catherine used to buy her gun. And Veronica, she starts talking about Hannah, and she's saying, "You left her in control of everything. Do you think that's wise?" And then she says, Hannah asked me to help her draw up a will. And I'm like, that's a lie. And Veronica, Veronica wants Catherine to tell Hannah to not foreclose on her property. Um, and she proposes this deal. She says, "Well, I have immunity, so I will say that I did the shooting, and you can go free, and I can't be prosecuted because of my immunity." Um, and she wants her mortgage canceled out in exchange for that. And Catherine's not stupid, because she knows that Veronica would not really do this. Once Catherine forgave that loan, Veronica would go out about her business and not do anything to assist Catherine. So she reduces the loan by 10 million to 44 million. And Veronica's like, "Well, I want it all, or there's no deal." And Catherine's like, "No deal." And then she tells Veronica, "You shouldn't wear that wig. It makes you look like a man." And Veronica was just like, she did not have a good comeback. She's like, "Well, behind these bars, you probably don't have a mirror, but you can't talk about anybody, how anybody looks." And I'm like, that was not a good comeback. It was very weak. And so Veronica got beat up by Hannah and insulted by Catherine in this episode. So Veronica looked pretty silly this episode. So, so, um, so then Jim, back at the house, Jim mentions the same thing that Veronica did, that the gun was registered to the Jolly Company, and that all this information could be very detrimental to all of them. And once again, Jim wants David to basically seduce Hannah into doing what uh, they want her to. And Jim's saying, "Well, I admire Hannah and all this, and she's a worthy adversary and all of that." And he actually has flipped his perspective about Hannah once he knew she was not in on that scheme for the money. So he actually did flip his perspective on Hannah, and he knows that she's not really somebody that's a pushover. And Jim tells David, "Well, I know you like Hannah," and David's like, "I do not." And it was funny because they sounded like, it sounded very high school, like, "Oh, you like her? Oh, I do not." That's just what it reminded me of. And and Jim's like, "I've known you long enough to know what floats your boat." Sorry, I'm kind of just this light. And So of course, David ends up going over there to do that. But I will let me well, I guess I can go through and run through all of that and just get to the rest of this. Just get to everything else. So David, he asks Hannah if she's all right, and she gives him the side eye, like, not this again. And he says that Veronica can be a bully. And she says, well, that bully got her hood ass beaten today. And David, he says, I would have liked to have seen that. And Hannah's like, no, you wouldn't have. And she's not here for his bullshit, as she says. And he insists that it isn't bullshit. And then he tries to touch her, and she's like, mm-mm. And he thinks he can get over on Hannah like this, but he can't, because she's not stupid. So let's get back to Veronica, and she just stays doing dirty deeds. So Colby did not recognize the address of the house because when he came and got in Veronica's pool. He came in the back way, so he came there thinking that it was a a job that somebody wanted his escorting services. And then he walks into the house, and then he sees Veronica, and he's like, it's like obviously he's in trouble. So she has all these men there to beat him up, and then she's been talking about, oh, I had to have my pool drained and filled again. Do you know how much that costs? And she has all these men beat him up because one on one, when he was handling each of them, he was taking them out, just bam, bam, bam. But then they have to fight dirty, and playing that hold the guy, and then so the other guy can punch and do all that, and then they are kicking him with cleats and spikes and all this stuff. And I'm like, if you have to do this to somebody, you are not a man. If you can't handle a fight, without double or triple teaming somebody, or using spike shoes and all that, you are not a man. You're just a coward. And despite being all beat up and bloody and stuff, Colby was still talking. He was still talking his stuff and saying, you know what, you're not going to ever change us. We're always going to be here, in reference to gay people. And then he tells Tanner, well, I think you're gay because you're so, you're so angry and all this. And of course, Tanner got angry at that because, I don't know, he has been doing quite a lot. And of course, Veronica has Tanner doing some other things, and I think that pertain to David and all that. So, but I think Tanner has some issues of his own because he sure is angry at gay people. So his Tanner's friend or whatever, he gets a phone call about Justin. He's like, well, man, it's your brother. It's not good. So over there at the hospital, Madison is trying to call Colby. He's like, bitch, you never disappeared this long. Call me. So here comes Tanner. He's trying to ask about Justin, and Madison's off duty, but he gets a doctor, and the doctor tells him that Justin is dead. He said there was a bad fire, and the doctor doesn't know what happened. So Tanner goes to the police station, and an officer tells him, well, Tanner set himself on fire. Justin set himself on fire. And Tanner was going to be like, oh, well, did Jeffrey and Madison do it to him? And the officer's like, no, he set himself on fire, and he tried to take Harrington with him. So, and over at the morgue, of course, Pearl is going to try to blame Jeffrey for Justin's death. And I said, you know what? Justin was messed up. Justin was real messed up, and it went beyond Jeffrey. So, because that family's messed up. So, Um, so, and this was the weird part because Tanner was being really level headed with Jeffrey. And he's saying all these things that obviously not are not true. Well, I told him to pursue you and all this and blah 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 because and not be doing all that other stuff with those guys and such and such. And he's being really like it was weird. So obviously he's up to something. And then he says, well, my brother had something he wanted to give you. What's your address? Stupid Jeffrey gives Tanner the address. And and so Tanner says, well, you better get checked because uh, Justin had HIV and he wanted to take you with him or whatever, or oh no, he thought it was okay. He thought it was okay because you had it too, and it was a mess. So I don't know what Tanner is up to, or if Justin was really HIV positive or whatever, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes, but it wouldn't be surprising if he was and was trying to take Jeffrey with him. I don't know. We'll find out what happens, but let's see. I think I got everything. Okay, so that was the episode. Tell me what you think, and I will see you next week. Bye.